Our neighborhood was shaped like a horseshoe, every street curling around to end at the same half-circle park. The park was the heart of everything. Open grass, a little playground, and behind it a stretch of woods that always seemed brighter than they should have been. When I was a kid, the front part of those woods was our kingdom. We'd build forts, race across the creek, and pretend we were explorers. We never went too far back. There wasn't a rule about it, but none of us ever did. It always felt safe. Sunlight would filter through the leaves, and you could still hear the sounds of the neighborhood. Kids laughing, dogs barking, the distant hum of trains behind the trees. Back then, it was usually me, my brother Malik, my best friend Priya, and Malik's friend Theo. We'd meet at the creek after school, shoes off, pants rolled up, mud between our toes. One afternoon, we were stacking rocks in the creek, trying to build a dam that would last longer than a day. Malik and Theo decided they'd run back to Theo's house for snacks. Priya and I wanted to finish our little camp spot first. It was just the two of us, quiet, except for the water and the far-off train. We started dragging bigger rocks over, laughing about how the boys would be jealous when they came back. Then, out of nowhere, I felt this pressure, like someone was watching us. I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe Malik and Theo were hiding, waiting to jump out and scare us. Priya didn't seem to notice, so I kept stacking rocks, trying to ignore the way the back of my neck prickled. But then, as I bent down to grab another stone, the feeling slammed back even harder. I straightened up, scanning the trees in front of us. That's when I saw it. There was something behind a bush, maybe 30 feet away. At first, all I could make out was a weird patch of red and blue peeking through the branches. It took a second for my eyes to adjust. As I looked up, I realized it was a clown. A real clown. Not a costume from the store, not a cheap mask. He was wearing a blue and red suit, the colors reversed on each side, and a matching hat. We locked eyes. He was smiling. White painted face stretched wide, cheeks bright red. That smile didn't move. He just stared at me. And then I saw the knife in his hand. It was big, almost comically shiny. My heart started pounding so hard I thought I might throw up. I grabbed Priya's shirt and yanked her up. She saw him too. I could feel her freeze beside me. Neither of us said a word. We just ran. I could hear twigs snapping behind us, heavy, fast, not like a kid playing a prank. We ran until we hit the edge of the park, gasping for air. We tore through the grass, past the swings, and up Priya's street. Malik and Theo were a couple houses up, laughing about something, not realizing we were running for our lives. As we ran past, we yelled about a clown in the woods. The boys just laughed, thinking we were pulling some prank. I couldn't get the words out fast enough to make them understand. We didn't stop. We kept screaming, running until we hit the middle of the street. Priya's dad, Mr. Shaw, came out of the house, looking confused and a little annoyed by the noise. We tried to explain, voices shaking, pointing back toward the park. Mr. Shaw told us to calm down, said we were being ridiculous. He asked if the boys were playing a trick on us. I could barely breathe. Malik and Theo caught up, still laughing, but their faces changed when they saw how shaken we were. I kept looking over my shoulder, half expecting that painted face to appear at the end of the street. Then, an old yellow car, something like a battered Pinto, rolled up from the dead end by the park. It pulled right up to the curb, just a few feet from where we were standing. The driver's window rolled down, and there he was, the clown. No hat this time, but the same suit, the same painted smile. He held the knife up, waving it slowly, and called out for us to come over. Mr. Shaw's face went pale. He started shoving us all toward the house, not saying a word. He was scared, and that made it even worse. We stumbled inside, slamming the door behind us. Through the window, I saw the car creep down the street and disappear around the bend. For a long moment, none of us said anything. We just listened to our own breathing and the hum of the fridge. Mr. Shaw called the police. He tried to keep his voice steady, but I could hear it shaking. We all had to give statements, one by one, trying to describe the clown's face, the knife, the car. The police came, lights flashing across the windows. They walked the park, the woods, even drove up and down the streets for hours. But they didn't find anything, not even a tire track. For weeks after, police cars circled the neighborhood and parked at the edge of the park. Parents stopped letting their kids out after dark. The woods, once bright and open, felt different, like something was still hiding back there. We weren't allowed to go back to the park anymore. If I even looked at the woods, my mom would pull me inside. The city sent workers to clear out the trees, cut everything down until you could see straight through to the train tracks. Even after the woods were gone, the feelings stayed. Priya and I talked about it for years, replaying every detail, trying to make sense of it. No one else believed us, not really. Not until they saw the car, saw the clown for themselves. To this day, I can't stand clowns. Neither could Priya. Even Malik and Theo, who never really saw the clown up close, got quiet whenever the subject came up. Mr. Shaw stopped drinking that day. He never said it was because of what happened, but he never touched a drop after that night. I think he saw something in the clown's eyes that none of us could explain. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I'd been alone that day. If Priya hadn't been there, or if Malik and Theo hadn't come back when they did. I don't like to imagine it. Even now, I'll catch myself glancing at the end of a street, half expecting to see that yellow car idling, or a flash of red and blue behind a bush. It's been years, but the memory doesn't fade. I don't know who that clown was, or why he chose our neighborhood. Maybe he was just passing through. Or maybe he was waiting for someone to be alone. Some nights, I still dream about the woods, how they looked before, and how they felt after. I guess some things just stay with you, even after the trees are gone. Halloween was always a big deal on Crescent Street. The lawns were sprawling, the houses spaced out by wide, shadowy stretches of grass. By the time I was 11, I knew most of the shortcuts between the hedges and which houses handed out the good stuff, full-size bars, not the fun-sized ones. That year, my friend Sienna and I decided we'd go out one more time. Maybe we were a little old, but the promise of free candy was enough. Plus, the weather was perfect, just cool enough for a hoodie, no rain, not even a breeze. By 8:30, our pillowcases were heavy with loot. We sat on the edge of the golf course, sorting through our haul, trading peanut butter cups for caramel bars, and letting the night settle around us. Eventually, We realized the street lights were flickering on and off, and the last porch lights were being switched off. Sienna nudged me, and we both knew it was time to head home. Crescent Street is shaped like a giant U. If you walk the long way, it's almost 3/4 of a mile, but the night felt too good to rush. We decided to take the bend, the part furthest from my house. It must have been close to 9 when we started walking. The street was empty. No more little kids in costumes, no parents chatting at the end of driveways. Just us, the sound of our sneakers on the pavement, and the distant hum of someone's TV. That's when I noticed the van. White, boxy, parked just off the curb. The kind with no logos, no windows except in the back, and those were covered by something dark. It looked out of place even in the half-light. Sienna nudged me, whispering that it looked like the kind of van our parents always warned us about. We both laughed, but it was a nervous, forced sound. As we passed, the van's engine rumbled to life. The headlights flicked on but didn't brighten the street, just glowed faint behind the glass, like eyes watching from the dark. I told myself it was probably just a parent waiting for their kids. People did that all the time, especially with how far apart the houses were. But it was late, and the weather was easy, not the kind that drove parents to hover in their cars. We kept walking, trying to act normal, but every couple of minutes I'd glance back. The van moved, rolling slowly down the street, stopping at the next house. No one got out. No one went in. Sienna tried to brush it off, but I could see her grip tightening around her candy bag. We turned around again, walking a little faster, shoes crunching on the leaves. I tried not to look back, but I could feel the van's presence, heavy and patient. Then, the van's tires squealed, just a little, as it crept forward again, this time stopping only 2 houses away, on the opposite side of the street. Still, no one got out. I tried to tell myself it was a coincidence, but my heart was pounding. I whispered to Sienna that maybe we should ask someone for help, just in case. We walked up to the nearest house, the porch light already off. I rang the bell anyway, trying to look casual, holding out my pillowcase like we were just late trick-or-treaters. A woman opened the door just a crack. She didn't even look at us, just muttered something about it being too late for candy, and slammed the door before I could say a word. We turned back to the street, and the van was right there, parked on the wrong side, engine idling, windows black as pitch. It was close enough now that I could see the condensation on the glass. I couldn't see inside. Not a face, not a shadow, just the outline of the driver's seat and a faint blue light blinking from the dash. Sienna tugged at my sleeve, her voice barely above a whisper. She wanted to cut through the side loop, a cul-de-sac with a shortcut to my backyard. If we hopped a couple fences, we'd be home in minutes. We started toward the loop, trying not to look like we were running. The van pulled out, slow and deliberate, turning the same way. There was no reason for it to follow, no houses up there, just a dead end. That was it. We broke into a sprint, cutting across the grass, slipping on dew-slick leaves. I could hear my own breath, ragged and loud in my ears. We reached the first fence and I scrambled over it, barely feeling the scrape on my knee. Sienna was right behind me, tossing her candy bag over before climbing up herself. We didn't stop. Another fence, then another, until we were in my backyard, the porch light still on from earlier. I fumbled with the key, hands shaking, and finally got the door open. We locked every door, every window, and sat in the front hall, backs pressed to the wall, listening for the sound of an engine outside. It was quiet for a while. I tried to convince myself we were safe, that the van would just keep driving, but then headlights swept across the living room wall and we both froze. The van crawled down the street, slower than before, its lights flickering through the curtains. It didn't stop, but it didn't speed up either, just glided past, silent except for the low hum of its engine. We didn't move until the sound faded. I don't know how long we sat there, barely breathing, clutching our pillowcases like they could protect us. Eventually, Sienna whispered that maybe we should eat some candy, just to calm down. So we did, sitting on the cold tile, unwrapping chocolate bars with shaking hands. The house felt different after that. Every creak sounded louder. Every gust of wind against the window made me jump. I kept thinking about the van, how it always stopped just close enough. How we never saw anyone inside. We never told our parents. I think we were both afraid they wouldn't believe us, or worse, that they'd believe us and never let us out again. But sometimes, late at night, I still see those headlights drifting past the window in my mind. I wonder if the van was ever really gone, or if it just waits for another quiet night, another pair of kids on the wrong side of the street. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was just a coincidence, a tired parent in the wrong place at the wrong time. But I still check the street before I go to bed, and I still hear the engine idling, somewhere out there, just waiting for someone to notice. Sometimes the worst part isn't what happened. It's wondering if it'll happen enough. Halloween always brought a weird kind of energy to our neighborhood. That year, I was 19, living at home with my mom and little sister, while my older brother was in and out, always busy. I'd gotten stuck with candy duty, sitting by the door, handing out sweets to every kid who rang the bell. It started off busy. Costumes, laughter, wrappers everywhere. My mom and sister were in their rooms, the TV murmuring in the background, and the house felt safe, even with all the noise outside. But by midnight, the parade of costumes faded. The porch light flickered, and the only ones left were the occasional teens barely bothering to say trick or treat. Eventually, even the teens stopped coming. I checked the clock. Almost 1:30 in the morning. My brother hadn't come back yet, so his car wasn't in the driveway. The house felt emptier than usual. I sat back, scrolling through my phone, just waiting for the last of the night to pass. I didn't expect anyone else. The candy bowl was nearly empty, and I was just about ready to call it a night. That's when the doorbell rang. I almost didn't react, just assumed it was some bored kid or maybe a neighbor messing around. The bell rang again, a little longer this time. I frowned, wondering who would even bother at this hour. Then came the knocking, 3 slow raps, not rushed, not playful. Something about the rhythm made my skin prickle. I tiptoed to the door, careful not to make a sound on the old wooden floor. My heart thudded as I pressed my eye to the peephole. My sister and mom appeared behind me, both whispering, their voices thin with worry. My mom's eyes darted to the door, and my sister clung to the hallway wall, silent. Through the peephole, I saw a man, maybe late 20s, maybe older. He wore a camo green baseball cap pulled low, shadowing his face, and a dark bomber jacket. His hands stayed buried in his pockets, shoulders hunched. He shuffled from foot to foot, glancing back at the street, then up at the porch light. Every so often he'd turn as if checking for someone or something behind him. No one in my family recognized him. My mom whispered that maybe he was just a really late trick-or-treater, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. We decided to wait him out, hoping he'd get bored and leave. But he didn't. He knocked again, then rang the bell, then stood there, shuffling, glancing around, repeating the cycle. I kept my eye glued to the peephole, barely breathing. My sister clung to my arm, and my mom quietly disappeared into the kitchen. I heard her rummaging through the drawers. She came back gripping a machete, her knuckles white. She whispered for us to stay back, and I realized her hands were shaking. "Who's out there?"
I have a food delivery for you, ma'am.
"We didn't order any food." He went quiet, just standing there. No bag, no uniform, nothing in his hands. Just that jacket and cap, still shuffling, still glancing around.
"You need to leave now, or I'm calling the police."
He hesitated, then turned and walked off into the night. I watched him until he disappeared past the edge of the porch light, my heart hammering against my ribs. For a long time, none of us moved. The house felt colder, like the night had crept in through the cracks. My mom finally broke the silence, whispering that we should check the locks again. My sister wanted to call my brother, but I told her to let him be. He was probably fine, just out late like always. We went around the house, double-checking every window and door. The sound of the deadbolt sliding home felt louder than usual. My sister asked if we should call the police, just to be safe. My mom shook her head, saying it was probably nothing, just a weird delivery mistake. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we'd just dodged something bad. The way he stood there, empty-handed, not even pretending to have food. The way he looked over his shoulder, like he was waiting for a signal. My brother came home a little after 3. We didn't tell him what happened, just let him stumble to his room, tired and oblivious. The rest of the night crawled by. Every creak and groan of the house sounded sharper, like the walls themselves were listening. When morning finally came, the sun felt weak, like it was struggling to break through the leftover darkness. I thought about calling the police, but what would I even say? Some guy in a cap showed up at 2 in the morning, claimed to have food, then left? No crime, just wrong place, wrong time. Still, I kept replaying it in my head. What if I'd opened the door? What if he'd had something in his pocket, something sharp or worse? We never saw him again. No news stories, no police cars, nothing. Just a memory that stuck around, like a splinter under the skin. Sometimes I still wonder about that night, if he was just lost, or if he was looking for a door that would open. I guess I'll never know. But I always check the peephole now, just in case.
Halloween's always been a bit of a non-event in this part of Scotland. Most years, you'd barely know it was happening. Just a few paper ghosts in windows, maybe a pumpkin or two if someone's feeling ambitious. But I've always loved it. Even if it's just me and my mom making up excuses to buy sweets. This year, we picked up a few extra bags just in case the neighbors' kids actually showed up. We got home late afternoon, arms full of shopping bags, the sky already starting to turn that heavy blue-gray shade it gets before real night sets in. Mom started putting things away in the kitchen. I was upstairs trying to get ready for the cinema. My boyfriend was picking me up soon, and I was already running late. That's when the doorbell rang, sharp and sudden, echoing through the house. I heard Mom call out, but she was elbow deep in groceries, so I went down. There were kids from our street. Some I recognized, some I didn't. They had on plastic masks, capes, a couple of bin bag cloaks. Their voices were muffled, giggling, all asking for sweets and telling the same old jokes. But at the end of the path, there was someone else. Not with the kids, just standing there. Taller, dressed all in black, with a mask I couldn't place. Not a movie character. Not anything I recognized. The kids finished their jokes, grabbed their sweets, and ran off to the next house. I was about to shut the door when I realized the masked man hadn't moved. He wasn't even looking at the kids. He was staring right at me. He raised his hand, slow, deliberate, and waved. Not friendly, not playful, just slow. I felt cold all over. My skin prickled and I backed into the hallway, not taking my eyes off him. I was about to shout when Mum came to the door behind me, asking if I was all right. The man turned, not toward the kids, but away, down the street, into the dark.
You all right, love? You look like you've seen a ghost.
I tried to laugh it off, told her it was nothing. But my hands were shaking. I kept thinking about how he just stood there, watching me, like he was waiting for something. My boyfriend Yusuf came to pick me up not long after. I told him about the man at the end of the path, but he just shrugged. Said it was probably some bored teenager messing about. We left for the cinema, and honestly, I was glad to get out of the house. The movie was loud, full of cheap scares. Nothing like the quiet, sticky fear I'd felt earlier. By the time I got home, it was late. The street was empty. No more kids, no more laughter. Just the hum of the streetlights and the wind rattling the bins. Mom was just getting the dogs ready for their last walk, waiting for Dad to get off his shift. She asked if I minded being alone for a bit. I said I'd be fine. I grabbed some snacks, went up to my room, and turned on my computer. Music, Tumblr, a bit of writing, anything to fill up the silence. Dad had put up a motion-censored light right outside my window after some creeps broke in last year. Usually it's just cats setting it off, but this time, it stayed on. 5 minutes. 10. I tried to ignore it, but the light kept bleeding through the blinds, painting everything in harsh white. Finally, I got up and peeked outside. There he was, the same masked man from earlier, sitting on our fence right outside my window. He was waving, slow and steady, just like before. The light stayed on, flickering around him. My stomach dropped. He kept waving, slower and slower, until he saw me looking back. The movement stopped, and for a second, It felt like the whole world was just holding its breath. I heard the front door open downstairs. Mom and Dad coming back with the dogs. Relief washed over me so fast I nearly tripped running down the stairs. I started shouting before they'd even taken off their coats, trying to explain about the man on the fence, about the mask, everything. Dad didn't wait for an answer. He grabbed the dogs, stormed through the kitchen, and flung the back door open. I heard him shouting, loud, furious, out into the night. My dad shouted at the man to leave, threatening to call the police on him. The man fled. I didn't see where he went, just a flicker of movement at the edge of the garden. Then nothing. The light outside finally blinked off, leaving everything in darkness again. Dad wanted to call the police, but I begged him not to. I just wanted to go to bed and forget the whole thing. I thought if I didn't talk about it, maybe it'd go away. That night, I lay in bed, listening to the wind and the old house settling. Every time the floor creaked, I thought I heard footsteps outside my window. I keep telling myself it was just some idiot in a mask. But sometimes, when the house is quiet and the light outside flickers on for no reason, I wonder if he's still out there, waiting, watching, waving slow from the dark.